Do you feel drawn to learn more about witchcraft and the occult but feel lost on where to start? Then welcome to Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft, a podcast all about what it means to be a witch and where to get started on your journey.
Join us as we navigate through various witchy topics and share what we have learned about the craft. So get in, witches, as we close out 2022 and season 1 of Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft with an episode all about Yule.
So before we begin today's episode, we would just wanted to remind everyone that this is our final episode of 2022, which is sad, but it's okay because we will be back in January with a new season and new topics. And just as an additional reminder, if you want us to cover a topic that we haven't yet, let us know and we'll get it scheduled.
For our Supercast subscribers, though, this will not be the last that you hear from us before 2023. We will still have book club recordings. I almost said readings. Book club readings.
Book club
We're going to
readings.
read you the book.
Yes.
The next one will be released on December 1st. We'll also be releasing a bonus episode on Supercast later in December. So keep your eyes open for that and make sure you're checking your emails because we're still sending out the newsletter on the 1st of every month.
And if you're listening to this and thinking how much you love to hear our fabulous bonus content and you want to read our hilarious and insightful newsletter, make sure you check out our Supercast for different subscription options for your binging pleasure over this holiday season. And lastly, before we get started on this episode, I know I speak for both Tiffany and myself when we say how thankful we are for all of our listeners and subscribers because we love making this podcast and we can't wait to be back in January.
We'll be back recharged and refreshed. And I don't know about you. I know I'm exhausted right now. This time of the year gets so busy for us. We're barely even home next month. December. We're going on a trip for Veterans Day weekend. And then we go to Arizona to see family for a week and a half. So.
Mm-hmm. And then it'll be like Christmas before you know it.
I know. And you guys are still getting, our Supercast members are still getting book club and a super secret special episode. So
yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then by the time we release content in January, hopefully we will be in a new house. We probably won't have any furniture, but I will be on the other side of the world, which is kind of sad, but exciting.
I'm excited because we're gonna come out and visit you guys.
I was gonna say I'm excited for you to come see me. That'd be great.
We're gonna be flip-flopping now. You're gonna be
in the
morning.
Yeah, early in the morning, and it'll be nighttime for you.
And it'll be nighttime.
So I'll be the one drinking the coffee, and you'll be the one drinking the alcohol.
And let's be honest, for those that don't know me, I thrive later in the day, not earlier in the day. So you're gonna get a better version of
and you'll probably get a better version of me too, because I feel like I'm more of a morning person.
You are. So. Yeah. So look, you're getting a better podcast next year, guys.
Exactly. It's gonna be for the best. Yeah. So with that,
maybe even easier editing for us.
Oh my God. Yeah. That, that right there is worth it in and of itself.
Yeah. Because morning Tiffany struggles.
Yeah. And evening Sam. Well, I love though we kind of moved it up a little bit because when we first started recording, it was 9 o'clock for me, which it's not that late, but then I would just get so exhausted all of a sudden. Yeah. I'm just I can't even my voice is really scratchy because I feel like I'm dying and it's
That's
only
me every morning
10 o'clock. So
especially too living in the Midwest, growing up in a desert where we didn't have a lot of plants that we had to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
I had seasonal allergies, but it was normal. Living out here first thing in the morning, I barely have a voice. I'm always super stuffy. Allergies in the Midwest are no joke.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them. So by later in the day, my allergy medication has kicked in. I've gotten rid of the scratchiness, which right now the scratchiness is because I have a sore throat for whatever stupid reason because of Vegas. At least it's not COVID.
Yeah.
But so for those that don't know, like our Supercast people will know because we just filmed book club too. But I'm struggling, Sam's struggling. And of course, as always, I feel like my husband is gone. So my animals are super needy and up my ass 24/7. I'm surprised at this moment there's not one in the room because they've all been in here this morning. So
yeah,
we apologize for any interruptions.
Any
that's just life right now.
Crazy coughing that you might hear. I will try and mute it.
Sam.
But
I feel like I'm getting back because I'm out of hot tea and coffee. So I'm getting back to that raspiness. I sound like I've been smoking for 87 years.
Yeah.
But look, we're going to come back in January, be refreshed, have better
and
voices.
Not sick.
Yeah. Not be using our smoker voices or coughs.
Oh, yeah, it'll be nice. But yeah, so let's talk about Yule.
Yay. This is, again, we just were talking about this, but this is my second favorite time of the year, with right now being my absolute favorite time of the year. But I love everything surrounding Yule or Christmas or just like the weather. I love when it snows and you have all these beautiful decorations out.
Oh yeah, I love it until Christmas. Once New Year's Day rolls around, I'm like,
I still love it.
It can be spring. Thanks.
It's magical. It's a magical time of the year.
It's just too cold, but I guess I won't have to deal with that for 3 years because I'll be on a tropical island.
Yeah. So. My favorite part about I know a lot of people hate the snow, but if you've ever just sat outside and listened while it's snowing, snow just deadens all the sounds. Mm-hmm. So it's silent and peaceful. Yes. I absolutely love it.
That does sound really nice. Yeah, I do like that. And
I don't like when it melts and then refreezes and melts and then refreezes and then it's sheets of ice and brown.
Yes, or the Mississippi River in St. Louis whenever it gets really cold and it's
so gross.
It freezes into pockets and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like a skin disorder. It looks so gross.
It does, or it looks like when it starts to melt and it's all kind of flowing, it almost looks like diarrhea. It's really disgusting. And I'm sorry really nasty for all of our listeners because this is gross, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks really, really gross. I hate it. I remember I would be riding to work on the I was about to say tube, but it's not the tube over there. It's just the train, the metro. And as we're crossing that bridge, not even wanting to look out the window because I didn't want to see it and be grossed out. It's so gross.
It is. Or shoveling snow. I remember one time it snowed. It was last year. We had the most snow we've ever gotten since living here. It was 14 inches or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Anthony, of course, was TDY. And he has this tiny little car now. And I had to shovel the driveway before he got home so he would be able to pull in to our driveway. Well, I didn't have to, but I was being a nice wife. And then I very quickly regretted my decision because shoveling snow sucks.
It's a workout. It is a especially full body workout.
14 inches of snow. Mm-hmm. I have a Jeep, so I just pop it in 4-wheel drive and I'm good. I can drive pretty much in any conditions. That was awful. That was so terrible.
I hate shoveling.
I was he got home and I'm I deserve an award. Because you would not have been able to get into this driveway and you would have had to shovel, but I did it for you because I'm a nice wife.
Yeah, because I'm the best wife ever. And so what did you buy me?
Yeah. I would like a present, please.
Yeah.
So Yule begins on Wednesday, December 21st this year, and it goes through Sunday, January 1st. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yule is it's called an astrological holiday where it falls on different days, right? It'll start on different days each year, somewhere between the 20th, I think, and 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay. So Yule is when the light starts to return and the light half of the year begins.
Yeah, and it's a pagan festival that falls on the winter solstice, and the winter solstice is the actual shortest day of the year. And from here on out, the days get longer and the nights get shorter. And, Yule just in itself, this will be a theme that we'll probably mention again and again, but it's a celebration of the sun coming back. And that's kind of the whole premise of it. And so whenever you see Christianity steal from Yule to create Christmas, the literal like baby sun is coming. That's that's what they're celebrating. But no, it's like the sun in the sky is coming back.
6 ounce.
Yeah.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah. But also the very bright star that warms our planet.
The actual like sun that
the actual physical sun that is
grow food.
Yeah. Not a story.
Yeah.
Like the thing that's existing in the sky. Yeah.
In ancient times, Yule was a season of hunting after the last harvest season, ending with Samhain. Yule observes the arrival of the winter solstice, and it predates the holiday known as Christmas, like we said, by thousands of years. In Germanic cultures of Northern and Western Europe, Yule celebrated the rebirth of the sun and the light that it would bring to the earth.
And a lot of it is, when we talk about the history and stuff, it's a mixture of many pre-Christian traditions and lore, but it's all about this sense of hope. We know that winter will eventually come to an end, and it's just signaling that end of the darkness and the beginning of that light, like we were saying. But Yule is not just the day of the winter solstice. It's a season and a way to come together. So it's not just the day of the winter solstice, that's it. Like Tiffany said, you know, it's a whole ass season, and it spans weeks. So Yule is also a magical liminal time. So there's a lot of mystery and magic tied to Yule, and it occurs again during the darkest time of the year. But people were concerned about ghosts and ghouls during this time. And this is, you know, something that I didn't know about until I was researching it, because, you know, you always hear about it, you know, people being afraid of ghosts and ghouls and goblins and whatever at Samhain, but there is that fear and concern at Yule as well, because it's this liminal time. And we see this in modern day Christian folklore as well, like with the Christmas Carol and like, you know, being visited by Holy Spirit and all sorts of shit. So there's a lot of different ways that you'll see this in Christian folklore as well. And I think in certain songs and stuff too, like Christian Christmas songs, you'll hear about like the ghosts. So modern celebrations of Yule are a merger of many pre-Christian traditions. And so a few of these in Scandinavia, ancient pagan celebrations lasted 12 days and culminated with the burning of the Yule log. And so this is where, you know, we get the 12 days of Christmas, which is a pagan thing, but
shocker.
Yeah, shocker. And then obviously Christmas caroling and wassailing, which Tiffany's going to go into a lot more detail on it, so I'm not even going to, you know, really mention anything about it. But that also comes from a pre-Christian pagan tradition. And then a lot of traditions come from ancient Rome, like the Feast of Saturnalia, which lasted about a week and included drinking and feasting. This was the earliest evidence of gift giving and kissing under the mistletoe. There's a lot of lore associated with the Feast of Saturnalia and mistletoe, and you know, basically bringing about fertility and whatnot. So a lot of this comes from ancient Rome pagan traditions as well.
And kind of to circle back to like the ghosts and ghouls, like you see that too in Germanic Europe with the Christmas Krampus. Mm-hmm. Like everybody has like, oh, Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas or whoever is bringing gifts to the children. And then in Germany, it's like bad children get put in the Krampus sack.
Yes, and whipped. Yeah.
And whipped. And they even do a Krampus festival where they'll have people like dressed as Krampus running the streets and like picking people out of the crowds and spanking them.
Yeah.
It's really funny, but also slightly terrifying.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Yule celebrations include bonfires, decorating with holly, mistletoe, or evergreen trees. They include feasts and gift giving. And then ancient celebrations also included ritual sacrifices. And the Norse celebration for Yule, which is known as, I think it's also just pronounced Yule from what I got, but it's spelled Jul,
Yes.
And this was centered around Odin, and many make the connection of Odin, the Allfather, as being Santa Claus as well. So if you don't know that lore, Odin is actually considered to be Santa, like the
Yeah.
first Santa.
And I mean, it fits. So
yeah.
And then I thought it was interesting to kind of dive deeper into some of the Norse pagan Yule traditions because they're so cool.
They're so interesting.
They really are. What we do know, a lot of it's just been passed down because here's the thing with like the Norse pagan Yule traditions, not much was written down. So I mean, while they did have like the runic languages and stuff, nothing about their religious festivals or ceremonies was really documented. And the biggest party surrounding Yule took place about 20 days after the solstice. But what we do know about Norse pagan Yule traditions comes from an Icelandic dude author named Snorri Sturluson. He wrote the Prose Edda, which is a collection of Norse myths. He wrote down like how he thought Yule was celebrated, based on his own research and stuff. But he existed in a post-Christian time. So, I mean, while, some of the stuff is really interesting, we don't know how accurate it is because this is based on like his own biased accounts. And it's based on hearsay and what he's heard and seen from the local populace. So we don't know how accurate it is, but it does give us a good place to kind of jump off to. When it comes to just learning about their traditions. But so what we do know is that the Norse pagans, while they followed the sun because obviously it needed to be tracked for farming and stuff, they weren't obsessed with the sun for celebrating Yule, not like we see in other cultures and not like how we've already kind of discussed. The celebration of Yule is like the sun coming back, like the literal sun, not a pretend baby.
Who was not born on Christmas Day.
Exactly. So yeah, but the sun isn't as present that far north anyway during this time of year. I mean, I'm not sure how much sunlight you guys got in Germany, but here in England during winter, at least where we are, the sun sets at like 3 and it's like pitch black, and
like the summers
terrible.
The sun will last until like 11:30 at night, but in the winter it's dark by like 4:30, 5 o'clock sometimes.
Yeah. And I know like the further up north you get, the less sun you'll have in the summer or in the winter. Yeah.
Like I know living out there were times that like periods of the year where it was dark when I went to work and it was dark when I got home. So it was like I never even saw the sun that day.
Yes, that's how it is here. It gets so dark so early in the winter. And I hate it so much. And there's also not streetlights here really, which also sucks because it's like pitch black everywhere.
But that's nice really for sleeping.
Yeah, until it's summertime, and then it's
and then it's
the sun all the time, like literally until 11:30 at night, and then the sun rises at 3. Yeah, why is that not a thing here? Because it's way sunnier here in the summer than it is in Germany.
We found out because when we moved back to America, Anthony was like, "Oh my God, we should see if we can get Rollodens installed at least in the bedrooms." They're illegal in the States because they're considered a fire blockage. Like if the house was to catch on fire, they're considered like you can't get out.
Probably a thing here because like all the houses here are built to keep heat in. So if you had those two, you'd all just die. But going back to the topic at hand, while sun symbolism was important, it wasn't like, I mean, we know they tracked the sun, but it wasn't like the most important thing that they celebrated when it came to Yule. But they did do a really cool party called a Yule Blot, and it's a Yule sacrifice party. So this would occur on the first full moon following the new moon after the winter solstice. So basically, like for this year, the next new moon that falls after Yule is December 23rd. The next full moon after that is Friday, January 6th. And so if we were back in like ancient, like pagan Norse times, this is when they would celebrate this Yule Blot would be.
Okay. So it would be new moon to full moon versus like traditionally it's somewhere around like starting the 20th to the 23rd ish and then going through the first. Okay. I didn't read that, but that's really interesting.
It is really interesting. So this is the best time. Like if you are a Norse pagan or you're really interested in this path and you want to celebrate Yule like they did and do a Yule blot, this would be the best time to really honor the Norse gods, would be Friday, January 6th. If you are listening to this in 2022, next year it'll be completely different. So don't come at me. But if you're listening to this when it's released, January 6th, keep that date in mind. A big portion of the Yule blot had to do with the sacrifice. And so at the Yule blot, they would sacrifice an animal. Sometimes it would be a horse. And I read that they would take some of its blood and sticks were dipped into the blood and flicked at people to bless them with the sacrificial horse blood. I'm not sure exactly like what the blessing meant or if it was just like good luck in the next year or whatever, but pretty gross. But also cool if you believe that. I don't know. But I was also reading that the sacrificial animal could be a pig or a boar. We don't know exactly, and we don't know why, but it could be in honor of Freya or to ask for like fertile fields in the springtime. But it also might make more sense if the sacrificial animal was a boar or a pig or something, because if they were going to eat it afterwards, I mean, I don't know if very many of them ate horse, but I don't think they really did.
They probably did. And I know in Germany they do. There's still horse butchers and you can get like horse brats from like the soccer games and stuff, or football games, whatever you call them. Soccer, football, whatever. Anthony has eaten horse.
I don't know if I would want to eat horse.
I won't. The whole time we lived there, like our, Sven and Marie, Sven loves it. And Anthony said it was really good, but to me, a horse it's a pet. It's not a food.
Right. It's so cute.
Which I mean, I know any animal can be a pet.
Yeah.
In some people's eyes, like you shouldn't eat animals at all because they are like pets or sentient or whatever. But I mean, I eat meat. I could not eat horse.
Yeah. I don't think I could eat horse either. And I feel like it would just be, I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't be that great. It seems like it would be
also thought that, but Anthony said it's actually really good. And I was like, that's good for you.
Well, glad that you tried it. I will I will take your word for it.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And then toasting was also a huge part of the Yule blot and the Yule celebrations and any sort of festive celebrations, even to this day. So cups were raised in honor to the gods. The first was raised to Odin. The second was raised to Njord, the god of the sea. And then the third would be raised to Frey.
In Norse traditions, Yule was considered a time of oath making. It's also a time when business deals and marriages were brokered. Basically, the chieftain often wore a golden ring that people would swear an oath by laying their hands on the ring while making their pledge in front of other witnesses. One of the rings was actually found at an 11th century chieftain's residence on the outskirts of Denmark during an excavation.
That's cool.
I thought that was really cool. There was a lot of, you can actually, like if you search this, you can find a lot of images of different ones that have been excavated. They're pretty cool. They're really cool looking. But personally, for me, this is something that I practiced with my grandparents in a sense when I was a little kid. And look, if our listeners know exactly how this is pronounced, if it's wassail or wassail, my family probably pronounced it wrong, but I grew up knowing it as wassail until I met Sam. And then I was like, wassail, what's the difference? My grandparents always called it wassail. And while traditionally it does have alcohol in it, you can make it non-alcoholic because it is like uses juices and spices and stuff in it as well. Or sometimes like if they didn't make the full on like wassail recipe, they would just do like a spiced apple cider. And basically they did this every Christmas. I remember doing this as a kid. Like we would get a glass of either wassail or a spiced apple cider, and we would essentially just set goals for the upcoming year. And we would talk about like what we wanted to accomplish, like it was just something that I did every year. So in a sense, like making that oath, I thought I tied like all of this together because we used wassail a lot of times, or wassail, however you say it. I don't know. My family called it wassail.
Yeah. It's like, that was like a huge thing of it. And it really is, probably where we get like the New Year's traditions of, what's it called? I can't even think what it's called. Like the New Year's resolutions
Oh
is
yeah,
probably
yeah.
from this ancient pagan tradition. And the fact that,
Mm-hmm.
you were doing that with your grandparents, and that's something that Norse pagans practice, and you have
Yeah.
Scandinavian blood in your family and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so
Yeah.
crazy. Or
I know. It was
ancestry,
like
blood, whatever.
one of the first books that I read, like after meeting you and finding all this out about myself. It was on some Norse paganism and Norse like traditions. And there was a whole chapter on this where I was just sitting there going, like, my grandparents literally tricked me into making oaths.
Yeah.
We would like sit and write down our goals and talk about all these things over wassail or spice cider, which was like it. This book in particular, I cannot remember the name of it, but it was a Norse paganism and Norse traditions book. Talked about how like it wasn't necessarily always done for Yule. Like if
Mm-hmm.
they had something coming up and they, were kind of making essentially like contracts between people, they would also make it and toast to the oath or the contract. So
I love it.
epiphanies.
Yeah. um, and then also kind of the last thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the Norse pagans was regarding present giving. So the tradition goes back, like when it comes to presents, this tradition really goes back to pagan times and many different cultures. Really, though, kind of back to Saturnalia and ancient Rome with their gift giving traditions. And actually, Boxing Day, which I didn't know about this comes from Saturnalia gift giving because they in Rome, like they would give the servants the day off and like give them a present in a box. And so that's why I call it Boxing Day. Which is crazy that like then like went all the way up to England. And that was
Yeah,
like a
and
whole
it's
thing.
like a major like English.
Holiday. Yeah,
Is it
it
a
really is.
holiday or just a
Yeah.
tradition?
It's a
Okay.
holiday. But so Norse pagans, they wouldn't necessarily give gifts to like, I mean, they would, but it wouldn't be to everyone, and not everyone would get a gift, but they might give them to like maybe the Jarl or the king or whoever was important in the area that they lived in. But there is a huge gift giving cycle in the Norse cultures. And so they would give to receive. And like whoever got the gift would then have the obligation of giving you now a gift. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Here's a present. I want money.
Right, yeah. So you're in my debt.
Yeah.
So I get something
Pay
in
up.
return. Yeah. So I really like that. But so there's also because I watched Pagan Happy Hour with Scarlet Ravenswood, which we've talked a lot about on this podcast, but
Yeah.
like she tied it back together with like honoring and offering to deities. And so like Norse pagans, they would give honorings and offerings so that the gods would honor them back and give them gifts. And so that's kind of how that gift giving cycle worked. And so there was presents at these Yule plots, but it wasn't like everybody gets a present or all the kids gets a present or somebody dressed as Odin, the All-Father, would come in with presents. Like that's not how it really worked. But
Yeah.
there was some sort of gift giving there too.
So, with that kind of foundation being set to the history of Yule, let's talk about some Yule traditions. Like Sam said earlier, much of Yule's customs became part of Christmas celebrations within Christianity, as is normal with Christianity. Like they take all of our stuff
Mm-hmm.
and brand it as their own. So, I feel like this is probably the biggest one that people probably think of when you mention Yule, but the Yule log. So the Yule log is considered one of the oldest traditions, and it's changed over time. So originally a large tree or tree trunk was taken and one end of it was placed into the hearth, and the rest of it was just kind of like sticking out into the house or wherever it was being lit. So they would light it with a brand from the previous year's Yule fire, again, leaving the rest of it sticking out so only the one end is burning, and slowly push this log into the fire as they needed to. And it would be burned continuously for 12 days from Christmas Eve to what it was called Epiphany. And at the end of the 12 days, the unburned portion was fully extinguished and saved to light the next year's fire. Letting the Yule log burn out was thought to bring bad luck to those that let that happen. So people would just take shifts like watching over the Yule fire and continuously feeding this log into the fire and not letting it burn out. In Holland, it was believed that storing the leftovers of the Yule log underneath one's bed was a way to protect the home from being struck by lightning. Which, how many lightning strikes are happening in Holland that you need like
must be a lot. Like,
I know.
And it's like an actual fear that they're trying
yeah. Yeah. They're like, we need protection from lightning. So here's how you do that. And then in France, I was gonna ask you
Bûche de Noël.
I'm just gonna let you say that. So what Sam said, and this is like this particular thing. People probably have seen this. It's a dessert. Basically, it's considered a decadent dessert. So the Yule log is this dessert made of sponge cake and buttercream frosting that's rolled into the shape of a log. And then it would be decorated with things like chocolate that would look like bark and candied holly leaves or meringue as mushrooms. And it was meant to be this like decadent, beautiful little centerpiece dessert for Yule.
It is so good. I've made this before. It takes a really long time to make because of like the sponge that you have to use, particular one, but it is delicious. And usually I'll have like some sort of like I don't know if it's like a coulis or some sort of like tart, like jam.
Yeah.
Like it'll be like the sponge and then some like jam stuff and then the cream and then you roll it and it is amazing. It is so good.
I've never made it. I kind of want to try this year, but I have eaten it and it is delicious.
Yeah. Worth all of the hard work and effort in the kitchen. It is so good.
Yeah. So that's just like a way that the Yule log has kind of transformed over the years and is still used traditionally. You don't have to like cut a whole tree down, but you can collect like wood that you use as your Yule log if you want to practice this. Like I couldn't imagine trying to cut a whole giant tree down that's going to last me 12 days and have it like just stretched across my house.
Yeah, there's going to be
like how would you even get it in?
Yeah.
How would you get it in? So next is the Yule goat, which I love for several different reasons. But Thor, this is probably my favorite reason because they just came out with Marvel, just came out with Thor, Love and Thunder. And there was, have you seen it?
Yes.
The two goats in there just made me fucking laugh so hard. Yes. And that's all I could think about when I was reading about this. So Thor was believed to have a chariot that was pulled through the sky by two goats. So that is a whole thing in Thor, Love and Thunder. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's not as serious. It's a little more campy than the other Thor movies, but it's great. I loved it. Basically, they would go around during Yule delivering gifts to well-behaved children or demanding gifts for Thor. So this is just one iteration of where we get Santa Claus or Father Christmas from, and I'll talk about another one later. Next is the Yule ham, and this kind of harkens back to what Sam was talking about with the sacrificial horse that could have been a boar. So the Yule ham was a boar that was associated with the god Freyr. They were sacrificed to him before a bountiful harvest or other blessings. It also has ties to Freya, but I couldn't find like a solid. It was all just kind of like hearsay. This could have been tied to Freya, which I think you mentioned as well. The sacrifices were cooked and then served during the Yule feast. And this is something that we still see like on Christmas Day. Most people will cook and serve Christmas ham. I know my family has always done a Christmas ham, and it's my favorite part of the feast.
Yes, yeah.
I love a good Christmas ham. But that's just another tradition that's been carried through is the Yule ham. And then wassail or wassail or however you say it, basically this is an alcoholic punch, like I said earlier. Though it can be made without alcohol, it's made with spices and fruit juices, and it was used to toast. It basically translates to good health. So when you're toasting with it, you're toasting to good health. And then Sam briefly mentioned this earlier, but to go wassailing, apparently it's called to go a wassailing. And this was like the adult Yule version of trick-or-treating. So you would go door to door begging for wassail or other treats. And can we please bring this back? Because I would 100% do this.
I would too.
I absolutely think that this should still be a thing.
I agree. And speaking of wassail or wassail or whatever it's called.
One day we'll find out what it's really called. I'm sure that it's wassail and my family is super white.
But have you heard of smoking bishop before?
I have not.
I guess it's similar to mulled wine, but I really want to try this. But it's basically an orange and you put cloves inside of it. And then you bake the orange, and then you add that baked orangey clovey goodness to hot wine and drink it.
This sounds delightful.
I know, right? I'm just like, I want to make that. But it's called smoking bishop.
I don't know if I included this. It was just something that I read. But I know that during this time of year, like putting cloves in an orange and hanging it in the house was meant to, like, I think it was to bring good luck and fortune into the new year, but it also like smelled nice.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I included it in my notes for the episode, but that was another thing, like cloves and an orange.
Yeah.
Oh. That sounds delightful. I might need to try it.
Same. I'm going to try it this Christmas because it sounds real good.
Yeah. Mistletoe is the next one. So this mistletoe was greatly revered by the ancient Druids. And the Norse also believed it to be magical due to the fact that mistletoe stays green year round, even when the host tree like appears to be dead. So like when all the leaves fall off the tree and the tree is just like sad little sticks, the mistletoe that's growing on it will still be alive. So they thought it was magical because of that. If mistletoe was found on a sacred oak tree, it would be cut down with a golden sickle, like in a ceremony, and they had to catch it with a white cloak before it could fall to the ground. And the mistletoe would then be divided up and given to every home within the village to ward off evil in the upcoming year. How do you know it's a sacred oak tree? Or is it just all oak trees are sacred?
I'm here to believe that all oak trees are sacred.
I'm here for that too. So if it's an oak tree and you find mistletoe in it, you need to go find yourself a golden sickle and a white cloak and chop it down in a ceremony and catch it before it touches the ground and then give it to everyone in your town.
Yep. But don't ask me to do it because I will drop it and I can't catch anything. So
same. I'd probably cut myself.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at doing that.
Same. So I also was reading about there's a legend tied to, I mean, because I know we talked about it in relation to Saturnalia, but it's also there's lore that ties it to Balder and Frigg. And so basically, like Balder was prophesized to die, and Frigg asked all the creatures and plants to not kill him, but she forgot to ask mistletoe. Unfortunately for Balder, Loki eventually ties it to an arrow and shoots Balder with it and then kills him. And so that really sucks. But there's a later version of this lore that basically says that Frigg brings Balder back to life. And she claims that because of that, mistletoe is now the plant of love.
Aww.
Kind of sweet, but also a little bit sad because...
So the Yule feast, which is also known as the Midwinter feast, would last 12 days. And during this time, Vikings would decorate an evergreen tree with gifts that often included food and carvings, and would also often include food for the tree's spirits in hopes of encouraging their return in the spring, which I think is super precious. And again, I remember being a kid and we used to take popcorn and sew a needle through, like a needle and thread through it, and make little popcorn chains to decorate the tree at my grandparents' house. The Celts also believed that mistletoe possessed healing powers, and it would like ward off evil spirits, which is what led them to bringing it in their homes for Yule in the first place. And the Norse had Old Man Winter, who would visit homes to join people during their festivities. Odin has long been considered the original Father Christmas or Santa Claus because of this. Their children would leave their shoes out by the herd on the eve of winter solstice, paired with sugar and hay for Sleipnir, which is Odin's 8-legged horse. So like 8 legs on the horse, 8 reindeer that pull the sleigh, leaving out the treats. And I know in Germany, I don't know if they do this in England, but in Germany, children leave their boots out by the front door for St. Nicholas to leave them gifts.
Yes. Yeah. That's not a thing here, but I knew it was in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like this is just one of those things we see in all of these old traditions that predate Christianity. You see it still today in the Christian version of Christmas.
Yeah. And they just take it and they change it.
Yeah. They make it their own. And they're like, no, this is exactly how it's always been. And the earth is only 2,000 years old.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, awesome.
And dinosaurs didn't exist.
Yeah. So speaking of Germany, I loved learning about Frau Perkta. Have you heard about her?
No.
I think you'll like her because she's kind of like Krampus, but not.
And I love Krampus.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, during Yule and during this season and just the Christmas season in general, a lot of people were concerned about witches during this time. It's not just a Samhain thing. It was pretty much all year long. People were worried about witches, but there was something about Yule that really just scared some people. So this whole lore goes back to the Alpine region in Europe. So Austria, southern Germany, Bavaria, and northern Italy. So all within that Alps region. And there's many variations of this story. And it's connected with Frau Hulda, which is a pagan goddess. And it could have derived from the stories of Frau Hulda, or it could be something completely different. We don't know, but we do know that this is something that legit was believed I probably even is still now believed. But so something to know about these little towns in the Alps, there's not a lot of trade between the areas, especially during wintertime, because of how spread out they are and how, the weather is and everything.
Yeah.
So all these traditions evolved and changed depending on which village you lived in. So one village could have something or believe something completely different related to this lore. But the time period that where this basically started was around 1200, which is obviously during a post-Christian period in Europe. So it wasn't just a pagan Europe anymore, which is sad. But it's associated with the day of Epiphany or the 12th night, and that's January 6th. And the name of Frau Perkta is a corruption of an old Germanic word meaning Epiphany night. And it was said that this is a time of great manifestation and potential, but obviously this is a corruption to that word. So she is represented by either a beautiful maiden or an old crone, depending on where you lived in the Alps. But there's a duality that she's most common depicted as a crone with a long beaked nose and a staff with 2 points. So it looks like a bident, but it's actually a distaff, which is a tool for spinning wool. And so she's associated primarily with females of the household, and that's who she targets, which really sucks. But that's why she's usually seen with a bident or a distaff, because it's connected to women, and women were the ones who were spinning and using tools like that in the house. So really what she would do is she would arrive to check in on women on Epiphany night or Epiphany Eve, and would punish people who had not kept a clean and orderly home or who hadn't finished spinning their wool by Epiphany Eve.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that terrible? So this could all just be tied back to Christianity in general, because we know how women are so put down in Christianity, and it was could have just been a way to scare women into compliance and make sure that they completed all their household tasks, because we got to keep women under our boots, and it sucks.
Yeah.
But she would, if you say she came to your house and you didn't finish all your household tasks and your house looked like a mess, she would burn your hands or tie your yarn into knots. So, so rude. But this kind of started this whole tradition of making sure your house would be completely cleaned before Epiphany, just in case she came by, which is terrible. Yeah. She's known as the Yule Witch.
Wow. My yarn would be in all kinds of pots because let's be honest, my house is not always clean.
And your wool is not spun?
No, I'm definitely not spinning the wool. So.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. She would come into my house right now and be like, excuse me, where are your hands? Let me burn them.
Let me burn the shit out of your hands because what is this mess?
You
my house has been under construction for months. So dumb.
Tiffany, where's your wool? Give me your hands.
Give me those hands.
Burn them.
And do you have any yarn that I can knot? Because we're doing both for you.
Yes.
So now that we've talked about traditions, let's talk about Yule correspondences. So colors for Yule are going to be gold, green, red, white, and silver. Crystals will be bloodstone, clear quartz, diamond, emerald, garnet, and ruby. Incense and oils are going to be cedar, cinnamon, clove, frankincense, juniper, myrrh, orange, pine, ginger, and wintergreen. Plants and herbs will be bay laurel, bayberry, calendula, sunflowers, wild ginseng, wormwood, blessed thistle, chamomile, cinnamon, clove, evergreen trees, holly, ivy, juniper, mistletoe, oak leaves, pine cones, poinsettias, rosemary, sage, and wintergreen. So many plants and herbs. Your foods will be things like cinnamon cakes or cookies, or cinnamon really in anything, caraway, dried fruits and nuts, gingerbread, roasted meats, especially pork dishes, spiced meats, roasted apples. Your drinks will be spiced apple cider, eggnog, mulled wine, wassail, however you say it, warming drinks like ginger tea. Goddesses will be Aphrodite, Brigid, Demeter, Fortuna, Gaia, Hel, Kal, Ishtar, Isis, and Persephone. Your gods will be Loki, Apollo, Attis, Balder, Bacchus, Cronus, Dionysus, the Green Man, Helios, Lu, the Oak King, Odin, Ra, Saturn, and Sol. Your animals are bears, deer, owl, reindeer, obviously, snow geese, squirrels, stags, wrens, and ravens. Magic should be centered around happiness, hope, love, peace, strength, world healing, and world peace. So symbolism is hope after darkness, the return of the sun, reeds, the Yule tree, and or the Yule log. Some ways that you can celebrate: you could make an evergreen wreath. Making a wreath of evergreens represents everlasting life, protection, and prosperity. And some examples of what you could use would be like, yew is associated with eternity and reincarnation. Holly and ivy are used to ward off negative energy. Pine is healing. Mistletoe is thought to bring fertility and abundance.
Yeah, and it's recommended to collect fallen branches for your wreath. And you could even just collect them and make them into like little bouquets around your house, like, or put up by like windows and stuff, or even just picking out your own Christmas tree. Like, say if you are that type of person that you're never just going to make a wreath, like you just know that about yourself. Even just going and picking out your own Christmas tree is a great idea to incorporate some evergreen into your home.
For those that can't see, because obviously we don't post videos of our podcast. I am that person. I am not going to craft it. I am not a crafty person in that kind of way. Yeah. So I will go get my own Christmas tree.
Yeah. I feel like anything that's like super messy, I'm like, man, I don't know. I'll just do the easiest version because I'm lazy. So I might be a collected in bundles type of person and put them strategically through my house. Or to like take some and put them inside my fake Christmas tree. You know,
well, you can also now, like today, a lot of not florists, but like plant shops, you can get the like garland live tree version that you can put on your mantle or hang over your door or around your windows. So like, we're lucky that we live in a day and age where like, if you're like me and you are not a crafty person, and crafts are like, it's like Pinterest fail central in my house if I try to do these kinds of things. We live in a time where you can just get that already done.
Yeah.
It is the one nice thing.
It really is. Yeah. And then just like other members of the evergreen family that have the same prosperity and protection correspondences are fir, juniper, and cedar. So any of that, if you have that near you, great for the same sort of prosperity and protection as well.
You can make your own Yule log. So this can go two ways, as I discussed before. Like you can either decorate an oak log with things like pine cones, dried berries or fruits, cinnamon sticks, holly, mistletoe. Again, just looking in, like making sure these things are safe to be burned. You don't want to burn things that are not safe for you to breathe in. But decorate your own and then put it in your fireplace or your bonfire if you don't have a fireplace. While it burns, reflect on your year and release the past while banishing old and negative energy that you no longer want in your life. Just spend some time welcoming back the sun and celebrating that the days are going to start getting longer. You can even use something symbolic. Again, if you don't live somewhere where it's like safe to burn, or you don't have like access to a fireplace or a bonfire, use a candle. Netflix has like the fireplace in your home, and Disney Plus has one that's like, I want to say it's Frozen themed. They have like Olaf's fireplace or something is what they call it.
Cute.
Yeah, but you can put this on the TV and use it as a symbolism for fire while you know, reflect on your year and release your past. Or you can make the dessert that symbolizes a Yule log that I cannot say.
The bûche de Noël.
There you
go. It's delicious. It takes, I mean, it's a little bit of effort, but it's worth every second.
Yeah, and really I mean, good. Like Sam said, it takes time and there's a lot of effort, but use that time to like reflect on your year and release things and put your intention into the dessert that you're about to, you know, consume, and probably do so with family and friends. So.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to put it.
Yeah.
And then, as always, you can decorate your altar with some of the correspondences that Tiffany mentioned earlier. And this would be a great time to learn about some of the deities associated with Yule and those connected to your path. So set out offerings for them and learn about the traditions of your ancestors, and, you know, just incorporate that all into your home and altar and just make it nice and Yule-y. So Yule. Also using gold as in like the color. You know, gold is often tied to Yule, and it's one of those color correspondences that Tiffany mentioned. But if your tradition celebrates the sun and its return as part of its Yule celebrations, adding gold throughout your home decor and altar, or even just adding some pictures or drawings of a sun to your altar or hanging throughout your home is a small way to celebrate. And it's kind of a cute way too. Could you like just having a little sun, like dream catchers and stuff throughout your home is adorable. So
you can have a feast, which is, I feel like everybody has like a Christmas dinner. So like, especially if you're in the broom closet and you're not like out in the open about your practice, this would not seem out of the ordinary for you to do. So historically, feasting has always been part of Yule and winter solstice traditions. It's a time to connect with friends and family and your neighbors while sharing a meal. And when preparing the meal, you can try to incorporate some of the correspondences for Yule and some of the seasonal availabilities for this time of year. You can also use this time to exchange gifts with loved ones. We've, you know, talked about the gift exchange portion a few times already. Making the wassail or wassail pact. So again, just thinking about your intentions for the coming year with a toast of wassail, and make a pact with those close to you to work towards those intentions and those goals. An alternative to this would be to light a candle and speak your intentions out loud, and spend time meditating and thinking of those intentions while the candle burns down. Visualize your intentions and goals coming true and what that would look like in your future. You can take this a step further by also writing down the steps that you'll need to take to make this a reality. And since this is a time of release, you can also spend some time decluttering your space, clean your home both physically and energetically. And a great way to incorporate some correspondences would be to use like the pine needles and mistletoe in your cleansing ritual.
Yeah. And then even just adding some of the herbs that Tiffany mentioned earlier into like your pillowcases, or anything like that can help with purification, protection, and relaxation.
You can also go caroling or a wassailing, which again, I feel like this should be a thing. I feel like we need to bring this back.
I would like to go to your house. Each other, we're doing it.
Yeah. We should just go around my neighborhood and see if anyone will give us treats.
Yeah. They'll be like, call the police. These women are nuts.
Some weirdos out there.
Yeah.
You can have a bonfire, just spend some time out in nature, or do something that, again, if you're in the broom closet and you're not out and open about your craft, do something like baking cookies or other sweets using some of those correspondences like cinnamon. You can make gingerbread, those kinds of things don't look out of the ordinary to someone who's not part of the craft. So
yeah, and you can even do it as like a gift giving situation as well,
which we do. I brought you cookies last year.
You did, and they were a bomb. I ate them all.
Drove them all the way to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I ate them all before I went to Italy. I shared them with no one. Actually, I take that back. I did share them with Kristen, my friend, her daughter. She really liked the cookies too, so we ate them together.
So those are just some easy things that you can do to celebrate. And again, throwing in a couple of things for someone who might still be in the closet.
But yeah, that's our Yule episode.
And our last, a podcast episode for the year. That's not a Superfast episode.
Yes. Yeah. Man, this year has really just flew by.
Right?
I can't believe this is episode 40.
I was just about to say that, and I can't believe that we have recorded 40 episodes for this podcast. I loved every minute of it.
Me too, but we will be back in January. We hope you guys all have a blessed Yule, and definitely tag us in any Yule celebrations that you do because we love to see it. And don't be a stranger this next month because we will miss you, but we'll also be traveling, moving across the world, and preparing some awesome stuff for you guys.
And hopefully recharging our social batteries at some point in time.
Yes.
And not sounding like we've smoked cigarettes for 80 years.
Yeah.
I can feel myself getting scratchier and scratchier as time goes by.
Oh no. Soon you'll have no voice.
About to go make another hot toddy.
Yes, yeah. And then when Anthony gets home, you'll be like,
no, by then I'll probably be like 4 or 5 hot toddies in. I'll feel like
and then you'll just be falling everywhere. That's it for this episode of Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. You can find our source material for this episode linked in the show notes. If you love this episode, we would be forever thankful if you leave us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you really love the show and want more Get In Loser content, check out our Supercast link provided in the show notes or search the Supercast website for Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. There you can purchase a membership to our podcast and obtain exclusives like getting episodes early, shoutouts on the show, access to our Ask Me Anything forum, our monthly newsletter, a promo code for merchandise, and more.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Get In Witches, or email us at we'redoingwitchcraft@gmail.com. Check us out on January 2nd, where we will be back to discuss the elements. Until then, blessed be witches.